So I hope the radiator for the war intercooler arrives soon, but yeah, you know how it is. Wait, I got a message.
Now that I've fixed the stopping issue, the new problem is a starting issue. The engine won't crank, but I can hear a click sound. The batteries are good. I've realized my engine actually ceased.
Okay. Someone needs advice for a 12 HG engine. I think we can do that. I got a message from a cruiser head far away, like really far away. He rebuilt his engine on his 61. It is a 12 HD. He redid the head gasket. Then he started it, everything was fine. Then he let it sit for a week, tried to move it, put the key in, turned it to start, and the only thing the car was make was click, click, click. What happened? It is kinda interesting. I never had it in this format or this way, but we will go to it. So, as I said, the engine made click click. The first obvious thing when the engine made click click, batteries or starter or something, he put the gear in it and tried to push it. Wouldn't move. Like wouldn't. They are hard to push, yes, but this thing didn't move, not a millimeter. So, next thing he said to me in this message was, he put a lot of water in it after the head gasket job. The radiator never got full. Why? So I gave him the advice to open the drain plug of the oil pan. He opened it, and the first thing, you guessed it, a lot of water, like 10 liters of water, and then the oil. He was kinda desperate. What happened? I mean, the head gasket was new. So, I asked him, did you flush the engine before? Yeah, he flushed the engine because the previous owner never changed the coolant.
As I always say.
He flushed the engine like 3 times, the water never got clear. Then he got the advice that probably the head gasket is shot because there was no thermostat in it. So he rebuilt the head gasket. So, as I said, drained the oil, only water is coming out, so he needed advice what to do next. I said remove the oil pan, so he removed the oil pan and then look upwards where the water is coming from. I mean, I had never ever had a rusted through block or head on a 12 HD or a 2H engine, never ever. He filled it with water and it was like not dripping, it was flowing out of the sleeves of the engine, particularly on the second cylinder, I think, and on the sixth. Yeah, what happened? I mean, my first thought probably head gasket, clamped it somehow or something when he installed it. No. So he removed the butterfly. When he removed the butterfly, he looked into it and there was like water in it, like this high. And the water was flowing through the inlet valve from the open ones into the engine and then down into the oil pan. That's why the hydrolock. And why did the hydrolock occur? There is one easy reason for it, why it occurred.
Never change the coolant.
I mean, it is a iron block with an iron head, and you guess it, the freeze plugs are made of steel, so they tend to rust. And if there is just water in the engine, I mean, if you live in a country where it never freezes, water is probably an easy solution, but there is a reason why you put coolant in it, so it doesn't rust. Did any damage occur? Actually, what he said, the rods are straight. I mean, when you look at it, they are straight. I had a 12, no, not a 12 HD, a 2H engine. They made a water crossing with it and yeah, it was too deep. There was no snorkel on it. It sucked in water. He turned it off. He thought, okay. He managed it to not kill it. They put out the injectors, put on starter. He pushed all the water out or a little bit of it. Afterwards, changed oil, started, run fine. And actually, the thing was, It always was running, it was running somehow good, but always a little bit off. So 3 years later, they made the head gasket, looked into the piston sleeves on the pistons, and once one piston was like a centimeter lower than the other one, they like bent the rod and it still was running.
Surprise! I am the one, the way your son don't need.
So we will see if the engine, after you replaced the freeze plugs, will run. It will run for sure, but we will see. So, and why did that happen? As I said, freeze plugs. When you look at the head, kind of problematic here. You have freeze plugs. There are the freeze plugs. And you have here a freeze plug, here a freeze plug, here. And when you rebuild the engine, my advice for you, if it is rusty inside, I mean they're already old, they don't cost a ton of money, replace the freeze plugs. It's just an easy job actually. It is not rocket science, just replace it. I mean, if you buy a rebuild kit or a gasket kit, it's just pennies. Actually, if you measure it in how much a 12 HD costs to rebuild. So, yes. How can a hydrolock occur? Actually, as I said, somehow coolant comes into the engine. I mean, I didn't had it only on a Toyota, I had it on like several cars with blown head gaskets. Normally they just leak in it, so it smokes white. But that was a, let's say, tuned car with more boost. So he shot the head gasket. The car was still driving, but without, obviously, one cylinder failed. He was driving because he had to get home. And after he stopped, he let it sit for like 30 minutes or so. All the coolant flushed into the engine. So what happened when he started it? Knock. Yeah, knock knock. Who is there? The rod through the block. Totaled it. What can happen also on a 4x4? You guess it, water crossings. No snorkel, water too high. You have somewhere your airbox and your airbox is on the water level. Yeah, physics. Water tends to run into it and then the engine, you guess it, sucks it in. Also happens a lot when you have like floodings in the normal car, and the normal car only can drive in like this high water, and some people try to drive in this high water with a nice wave in front of it because they are too fast. Yeah, same thing. Best thing what can happen is you bend a rod, or like my fellow cruiser had who just tried to start it one time and it may click, and then tried to push it and was more than intelligent enough to recognize something is off. Probably nothing happened. But as I said, water crossings are a danger, and rusty coolant systems are a danger. Too much boost, probably also a danger. Man, probably not on Toyota Land Cruiser engines because you don't drive 1000 horsepower with it. But how to prevent it? It's easy to prevent it on an old cruiser.
Just flush the coolant system.
Someone would flush the coolant system.
Just flush it.
Put some nice antifreeze in it. It will not rust. There are additives in it and everything will be okay. In terms of failing head gaskets, slowly failing head gaskets, you guess it, it will smoke white. I mean, you are lucky if you can do it yourself, so it will only cost you the gaskets. The labor is, yeah, let's say free. Not free, but kind of free. And you can probably prevent the engine damage, or if it's slowly water leaking in it, what will happen? Yeah, it will damage the engine if you drive long with it, because the water will, let's say, damage the sleeves. Yeah, that's also a way you can kill the engine slowly, but in this case it was a hydrolock. Hydrolock means nothing moves because you can't compress water. There will always be a weak spot somewhere in the engine, and that will break if you try it hard. Same with water crossing, as I said. It's on you. What do you do when it occurs? You have a hydrolock, or you think you have a hydrolock. As I said, with a hydrolock, as it says already the word, there is water involved. So if it is a 4x4 and it was a water crossing, and you were lucky enough to shut it down before the water was overflowing your bonnet and you don't have a snorkel, the first thing you do is try to turn the engine by hand when it is out of the water. I mean, that is probably a logic thing. When it is out of the water, you try to turn the engine. If it doesn't turn by hand, then you have probably a hydrolock. Don't put the rope on it and try to tow it with other 4x4 and put a gear in it. It will break. Don't try to start it. I mean, he was lucky, he tried it one time and he already recognized there is something off. But if you try to start it hard, probably starter will burn off, or if it is not a strong engine as this one with like really strong internals, you will have a nice rod throwout or something in this direction, or a rod bend. What you do? When it is a diesel, remove the injectors so the water can come out somewhere. Get on your key, start it. It will piss out all the water. Afterwards, change the oil, because there is a high tendency that the water is also in the oil. If it is, let's say, a slowly leak, and there is a lot of water missing in your radiator, just open the bolt on the oil pan. If water comes out, you know where it is gone. Into the oil pan, obviously. Yeah. That is it about a hydrolock. A hydrolock can kill your engine, and then it gets expensive, really expensive. This was it with another episode of Wrenching. I hope it helped at least someone. If you need some advice for a Toyota, it is a Mazda, but for a Toyota, you can hit me up on Instagram. Wrenching Lifestyle is the name on it. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our social media, and see you next time.